Yep, because everything is not where it's supposed to be. Because I had it all configured and it all got cattywampus. Okay, so I'll put your name next to you and my name next to me. And hey, we have a whole bunch of people coming into chat already. That's a
Cool.
good sign.
Yay!
Hey, Asia, good to see you aboard. Um, Hopefully you have a good time hanging out with us tonight. I am Rob, aka Lantern Noir, and on screen behind our pictures would be Siobhan, who is our topic of conversation to start tonight off. And with me is a friend, a amateur historian, and reenactor for the Civil War and the time thereabouts, Erin Jones.
Hey.
And she has graciously agreed to hang out tonight and talk about the fit and fashion of the 1890s. Um, Before she introduces herself with a bit more, I just want to share that when I was testing my first shots at streaming, I had this great idea to like just find a friend on Facebook who was active and said, "Hey, does this work?" And Erin was on. I said, "Hey, this is working." And she's like, "Yes." And then her face just started like her eyes widened and her jaw dropped. She went, "What is that girl wearing?"
It's true. I did do that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so I said, "Well, let's make a show out of this."
Yes, and apparently you have all sorts of evil plans to torture me too.
I have well, there's some things in the works to make the evening interesting. Congratulations on getting into your is it I'm assuming you're graduating from high school, Asia. So congratulations on making it to be part of the class of 2021, the graduating class that no one will forget, just like the class of 2020. U.S. history and world history back to back. Now that's gonna be fun. And feel free to throw questions in chat or play with the kitty cat. He's fully interactive. Um, he has all kinds of fun stuff down there in that part of the screen. Um, if you play Red Dead, also a small heads up, this thing is like really buggy tonight. So, Aaron, can you tell us a bit about your background and what got you into historical clothing?
Yeah, so growing up, our parents were always taking us to museums and historical sites and things like that. And of course, at a lot of these historical sites, they have, the costumed interpreters. And my sister and I just loved all of that kind of stuff. Our parents really have a passion for history themselves, and they certainly pass that on to my sister and I. We both have a love of history, especially colonial, American Civil War, turn of the century, World War II, all that good stuff. We love it. And yeah, just grew up pretty much immersed in it. And then after graduating from college and moving back to Michigan, I got into reenacting and brought my sister along for the ride. And yeah, I asked her one day if she would like to get into reenacting, and she said sure. So we have been doing Civil War reenacting for about 10 years now. But yeah, we have pretty much always been into history and always had an interest in history and women's fashion, historically speaking. We're not like fashionistas, but we like the history of it, and that has always been very intriguing to us. So yes, and then when I first saw your character on screen, I was like, oh no 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 no.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll own that one.
It's
Um,
just a little bit better now.
to in my defense, I would also point out that I now we'll burn all those bridges when we get to them. Siobhan has undergone a couple of costume changes over the time, and and so we'll see what we can do. As far as Discord servers go, I don't actually have my own Discord server that I run. I kind of ride shotgun on lots of other ones that I hang out and talk on. The big one that I'm a part of that I'll just plug for is called the Knowledge Fellowship. And it's a collection of instructors, professors, teachers that all, no, that's the wrong kitty cat, that all share their knowledge over Twitch. So that's a big part of what they do is just use this as a mechanism please move this. Let's see here if I can just fix this really to
Nice.
help teach and educate and share. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great community. I feel like the dumbest person in the chat most days. So um, yes, absolute TKF hype. Um, it's much like when I walked into my AP calculus classroom where I knew I lowered the average IQ by about 5 points just by being there. Um, but I'm
Feel like
honored
person in the chat most.
to be part of that. Why am I picking up an echo?
Because I've got you on Twitch so I can see the chat room, but I'm muting you on Twitch now, so you're good. Just wanted to make sure that I could see questions.
Um, yeah, that was a small. I've had entire broadcasts ruined by having a tab open on my side and not realizing it. So before we dive into some more about Siobhan, when you go into reenacting, Aaron, can you tell us a little bit about like what goes into preparing to do reenacting? Do you just is there like a manual that you read, or does how do you share knowledge or learn about what you're going to tell people who come visit you?
So basically, there isn't any manual. You're really going to be doing a lot of research on the time period and whatever sort of um, persona that you want to do. So we do a lot of our research, especially over the winter when it's not our normal reenacting season. And when we talk reenacting season, we're talking, spring through maybe late spring through maybe the middle of fall here in Michigan before it just starts getting really too cold and nasty for us to be able to be out camping in our canvas tents and everything. So we spend a lot of our winter researching what we want to be portraying at events. So we'll find, original diaries from the time period. We'll look online at a lot of museum collections. A lot of museums have images of the clothing and things that are in their collection available on their website. So you can take a look at original garments on their websites. And we'll try to get out to museums as well. I mean, not so much right now because COVID, but we try to get out to museums as well and get as up close and personal with original artifacts as we can. So we read a lot of original, primary source material, a lot of diaries, letters, anything as close to the time period as we can possibly get. Because the further away you get, the more questionable the accuracy becomes. But we'll also read books on areas of interest from other historians who also dove into the primary sources and things like that. So we spend literally years working on our impressions. So when we go out to events or when you come out to events and you see us, theoretically, everything that you're seeing out there is going to be very period appropriate. And I use the term period appropriate to denote that it's not going to be absolutely perfectly period correct because we can only get as close as we can get with our modern stuff. It's not always going to be 100% perfect. There may be little tweaks here and there that we have to do because we just don't have available the exact same thing that they did. But we get as close as we possibly can, always with safety in mind as well. So there will be what they call full immersion events, but they still take certain safety precautions or certain modern things like your modern medications and things like that are of course still allowed because it's safety first.
Right. Well,
But yeah,
there's
when we come out to the events, we've spent, months, if not years, researching the clothing that you're seeing us wearing. And we spent many, many, many hours putting those garments together and putting those outfits together. So every little detail is carefully considered, including all of the trim on our clothing. It's all well researched. A lot of what we wear, the fabrics that we use are reproduction in a lot of cases. We use a lot of reproduction fabrics where we've got books from the time period that show what fabrics were available. And we know the way they made dyes and things like that. So we can actually get pretty decently close with a lot of this stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I remember from when I did the Rev 4 reenacting is we used cotton way more than was ever popular in the 17th century, 18th century, because buying linen is incredibly challenging on a modern budget, and linen was way more common than cotton was.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to take your liberties where you take them in order to kind of get through this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch
And
over to this view.
same with Civil War as well. I mean, really, cotton was far more expensive than silk was. So you'll see a lot more like in reenacting, you're going to see a lot of cotton prints out and a lot of like cotton stripes and things like that because it's just too expensive for us to go out there in silk dresses. And, you know, you're working around campfires all weekend. You've got the gentlemen with their rifles, and they're not firing live rounds, of course, but they do fire black powder. You're working,
Uh-huh.
you know, walking through camps with campfires and soot and all this kind of stuff. Silk is just not a good idea. You'll see some out at events, especially if the event has a ball. The ladies may bring their silk dresses out for the ball, but you're not going to see a lot of silk dresses in the civilian towns or camp encampments because really our civilian encampments are meant to represent a town. But because we are outdoors, we don't bring a lot of silks out. So we do the best we can to represent that with the much more budget friendly cottons and much more practical for being outdoors like we are. But we do, when we get a chance to play in historical buildings, which is always so much fun, you'll see us, a lot of us bring out our silk dresses for things like that, but not when we're out camping in canvas tents, not so much there.
What I'm going to do, kind of get into our topic of the night. We were talking about the clothing of the period. I'm going to start actually with one of the first outfits that spurred our conversation because this is the outfit that I had my dear Siobhan running around in when she came out into the world, and you can see this did not get great reviews. Um, so where what's the problem? Let's start with a short version of the problem.
The whole thing, a whole lot of no. Um, for a man's outfit, this works.
Okay,
For even a woman out on the prairie or out on the western frontier, no. Women did not wear pants. This is not a thing. um, and then the vest like that too. No, no. Women also did not wear that style of hat either. Um, Same thing with the shirt. Now, if she is working, to be fair on this one, because she's typically working, she can have her sleeves rolled up like that.
okay,
But even out west, yeah, things were a bit more relaxed than the cities back east, where your standards are going to be much, much, much higher. But even so, you still had certain standards. So she is showing an awful lot of skin for daytime.
okay. So we're going to take off her vest because you said that's a absolute no go,
Yep.
and you want to put her in a skirt of some kind.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to start actually with this skirt.
No.
Hold your horses because I also want to take a look at boots. Now, the ones that I start off with are these ones. How are we doing on those?
Those are great.
We like those?
Those are very, very good. Yes.
Okay. What about going to a classic?
No.
Because?
Those are a man's boot.
So even a woman working in the range would be unlikely to be seen in.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm thinking really no.
Oh, really, really? No. That's not even right for men. Okay. No, no. Go back to the other ones that you just had.
Oh, these guys?
Those ones are decently acceptable. Again, they're more of a man's boot than a woman's boot,
Okay.
but they're better than the kind of cowboy boot things you had there.
Got it. Well, and the thing is, I've been very attached to these. They call them the homestead boots
Yes,
because I
those
really like that sense. Because they remind me more of the shoes she probably would have worn with her out of New York.
those are actually extremely common. The style on that type of boot didn't change much during the entire mid 19th, late 19th century. We could even wear those Civil War. and they would be passable. So yeah,
Okay.
ones are acceptable. And the skirt is not. And here's part of why. She's showing way too much skin.
Okay.
And also, you can see her drawers.
You can see them bloomers.
Yeah, they're not bloomers. They are not bloomers. They are
Uh,
drawers.
they're drawers.
They're
Okay.
different.
So what's the difference between bloomers and drawers?
I knew you were going to ask that. So basically, they're two different clothing items, essentially. I'm going to see if I can find you a good picture. Um,
I'm not sure I'll be able to pop it up here unless you send me the link.
I'm going to try to
Um,
send you a link to it.
let's go ahead and put her into a slightly better skirt then. How's that for?
That is much better. Yeah, that is
Also,
acceptable. That one is also acceptable. The wash skirt, because of what she is doing, that is going to be far more appropriate.
really?
Other one is a little bit more fashionable. Now, if she's going into a town to do some shopping or something like that, this skirt would be very appropriate.
Okay.
But for day to day working, this wash skirt is going to be perfect.
Okay, so she'll be working in a wash skirt.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Now you said her shirt's okay for working.
Yeah, her shirt is okay for working.
Would it be better if we added a collar?
Potentially, depends on what you're adding.
We can. That one's got a little more of a collar to it. What about a high lace collar?
That's much better. Yes.
Okay. And we also. What about
Whole lot of no.
whole lot of no?
Whole lot of no.
Okay.
Okay, so short sleeves are a massive no-no during the day. Basically, the only time you get to wear short sleeves like that and show that much skin on your chest is if you're wearing an evening dress or a ball gown. But
Okay.
basically, to me, this looks more like her chemise, and she forgot to put a layer of clothing on.
Okay. So even if I were to like put a little hat on top of this and make her look like she's going in down to shop, you still
Well,
think she should have another layer on?
she still looks half naked. Yeah, she should have another layer on.
Add another layer. Okay. Well, let's get her into a work shirt then. And because I'm assuming this is going to cause a reaction.
Oh yeah. Also, again, that looks more like a chemise than anything
Well,
else.
it literally is.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, I see it now. It does say chemise.
okay, so these are really popular. How are we even for menswear? Is this a style that was prevalent in this block, or is this Hollywood's take on it?
More of a Hollywood take on it. Um, it's not the worst thing ever. I mean, you've definitely had way worse on her. That green one is pretty good.
Okay, I've liked the windward shirtwaist. I've liked a lot as a shirt.
Yeah,
Um,
that plaid fabric, they did wear a lot of plaids, a lot of stripes. Those were super popular. Even late 19th century, 1890s, like this is supposed to be, that was still really, really popular. And pretty much everything, every shirt, every dress is going to have some sort of collar on it. And part of the reason for that is when you're working, of course, you sweat. And that color helps protect the fashion fabric from your sweat, your body oils, things like that, because that collar is going to come in direct contact with your skin. But underneath that shirt, you're going to have your chemise, and that's what's coming in direct contact with your skin. So the chemise is something that you're going to wash regularly. You can also, with the collars and cuffs on the shirts and the tops of dresses, you can remove those. They're typically easily removable and they're easy to launder. So a shirt like this, you're not going to really wash it a ton because you want to preserve that fabric as much as possible, but you are going to take the collars and cuffs off and wash those, and you're going to wash your undergarments regularly. But your outerwear, less so.
okay. Now you said a vest would probably not be seen on a woman.
Not so much. It really wasn't. And those are all very men's vest styles. There are some styles of vests that women can wear, but none of those are a good option.
Okay, well, if we have time, I might duck out to see if the shopkeep has one for us. We'll stay without the vest for now. Um, and I usually try to sneak something on there. I do that a lot, is that little narrow neckerchief. I'm not sure why.
That is actually perfectly acceptable.
No.
Okay. So a lot of times with the ladies' shirts, you're going to see something along those lines, or you're going to see a brooch right up at the top. Because typically the buttons don't go all the way to the top. You're going to close it with a neckerchief like that or with a brooch. And if it's a work dress, it's going to more likely be the neckerchief. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Good choice.
the corset's a thing.
No,
We're going to have to talk about corsets.
you cannot wear a corset on the outside of your clothing like that. That was not at all the intention of it. It is not meant to be a fashion garment. It is purely functional.
Purely functional.
Purely functional.
Okay.
You may get in the how shall I put this delicately?
So, like, are we getting better if we tuck it into our skirt?
Nope. It needs to be entirely not visible. You'd be wearing it under all the rest of your clothing. A corset is really just a supportive garment. Um, for the
Okay.
most part, it's not going to change your shape a whole lot. It's really just meant to help support the weight of your skirts, especially. It's supportive. It's not decorative. It's not a fashion garment. It is just underwear. The only time you might see a lady's corset is if you're in a saloon and they have special ladies.
Special ladies.
Yeah.
Oh, part two of the show is going to be a real interesting one, sweetie. Okay, so we're gonna slip that corset back off then, given our mission for kind of cleaning her up a bit. Now, I also did do some investing um, in coats. So this is the one I usually find Siobhan wearing. And you can see
that,
in the mirror behind her the kind of like the bit of a tail to it with the bit of the gathers.
that is actually perfect.
Okay,
That is very good. Yeah.
you didn't like this one on her.
No, that one is more like a man's jacket and it's kind of a military style.
Yeah, that's kind of why I picked it up actually.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, no.
Although interestingly, this is called the military jacket.
That's another style of military jacket. Yes.
Yeah, it's got that kind of the mandarin collar.
Accurate. Yep. Depending on which regiment you're with, ooh, same thing with that one. That's very man's jacket. Nope. Depending on what regiment you're in and what your
Go
rank
back to
is,
those.
you'll have different. Yeah, this is going to be your basic private, lower ranks kind of a jacket in the military. Um, the frock coat, it can be both military and civilian. Um, and that one, you're going to generally see, if you're seeing it on military, that's going to be probably, your captains and above, I would say. You're not generally going to see it a whole heck of a lot on your soldiers that are further down the chain of command because it's a little bit fancier.
Okay, so before we get too far from coats, this one you're good with.
Yes, that one is a fantastic women's
Very
jacket.
fashionable. It even has pockets, which they might even be functional pockets,
Yes, women's pockets in this time period are pretty much always functional, unlike our modern ones, which are
which even my 8 year old complains about. How come my pockets are only this big? I'm like, because the patriarchy hates you.
or we have those fake pockets on clothing that look like they should be pockets, but oh, just kidding, they're not.
Not pockets.
They don't even open, and you're like, so what was the point in that? But I
Exactly.
even had during well, really until goodness, maybe 1940s or so. Um, Women had pockets that they could tie around their waist under everything else. It
Hmm.
was a hidden pocket. And yes, a lot of us have them for Civil War reenacting, and we love them. They are the brightest thing that anybody ever made in women's clothing. It's just brilliant. Um,
We
you can
actually
add all sorts of things in there. It's great.
we actually had a very long conversation the other night about women's pockets from the 18th century and the the reenactor myth that pockets were worn over your skirts so everyone could see the fancy embroideries done on them.
Yeah,
And that's one of those stories that comes down from reenactor to reenactor because there's no evidence in the historical record of it.
not
But
at all.
someone during the centennial said, "Hey, this makes sense." And a younger reenactor heard it and went, "Oh yeah, okay, okay, let's yeah." And then a younger reenactor said it and went, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, that makes sense." And it just kept
It kept going.
going ad nauseum. Now, I do want to ask though. So we've got this woman who's working the plains in men's jobs.
Yes.
I see this coat and I see a very effective. This is the coat I had when I graduated high school. I got this when I left for college. Oiled canvas
Yes.
with the shoulder cape and
Hmm.
giant pockets on the sides that you could stick VHS cassette tapes into. I could fit two on either side. And I know because I walked across campus in a complete downpour with a cowboy hat and this coat, and nothing got wet.
Yeah.
So when you say this is a no-no, is that because it would be a fashion faux pas to be seen in it, despite the fact that it's so much more practical? Or
It
like
was
even a woman who knows she's going to be wet to the bone would still she couldn't bring herself to be practical.
pretty much. I mean, if you're going into towns, you're not going to go in dressed as a man. It's just not going to be something that you do. Now, will you get the occasional odd woman who will do something like that? Sure. And I can probably branch it this for her because of what she's doing and what I know she's doing. Um, I'm gonna let you get away with this. I'm gonna let this one slide because it makes much more sense for her than the more fashionable one. That fashionable one is not gonna be not that one either. That is a very fashionable and completely acceptable one. However,
Nice save. But
it
there's a
is
caveat, of course.
it is not at all practical for the work that she is doing.
Ooh.
First of all, it is like bright white and pristine, very
Oh, it's a
fashionable.
dress up look. It's a dress up look. Yeah, and then the Maxwell jacket, this is what I just got for her, and that's all leather patchwork.
That one is actually a really good work jacket.
Hmm,
I could live with that one too.
good to know. Okay, so before we get into some
With
critique,
like a lot of work clothing and things, you'll see a lot of stuff like that. That's patched together from old garments. Um, they saved the good bits and pieces and used them to patch other things and keep. Ooh, that's pretty good too. They look it up.
that's actually not technically an outfit.
It's not terrible. I don't hate it.
You tell me. Okay, so other ones I've put together. Well, this is
No,
now if I take the corset off, are we less anti?
no.
Really? Okay, because I want to show you something really quick. Let me put this one on and pop the corset off and show you something here. Because they just released these last week. So let me get the corset off so you can stop. Oops, freaking out about that. Because I know that's driving you nuts.
Oh, it is. Oh, you're just making me twitch over here.
But this dress on its own was just released last week in the new update as a period dress. You're not feeling it?
No. Oh, who's designing these? We need to have a chat.
The other one that they came out with, I'll come down here to dresses, because I bought both of them.
No, 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 no. That polka dot one, honestly, looks very 1830s or 1930s. Sorry, 1930s.
Okay, now it's funny you mention that. If we were to be talking 1910, 1920, 1930, let's go back to those dresses. Are we starting to get more into the post turn of the century look then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with this one that you've got on her right now, there's about 80 different things that are wrong with it, but I'll just start with the top few. Okay. So for an evening dress, it's not the worst thing ever, but 1890s, you're getting this is the bustle era. So, and the big puff sleeves.
Got it.
So that's the biggest problem that I am seeing here is you're lacking the bustle and you don't have the big puff sleeves.
Okay. Not exactly practical for finding that sweet spot between femininity and being a bounty hunter,
Correct.
but I see where you're going. I see where you're going. Um,
Now, if we take this as maybe she stole this from somewhere and she has tweaked it to be more practical for herself,
hmm.
maybe. But again, those short sleeves are going to be a whole lot of no. What are you doing to me?
This is what I put together as what she wears when she plays poker.
No.
Oh dear.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
That's
Oh.
now look at the name of it. This is my Lone Ranger look.
Oh. What are you doing to me?
This is strictly I know this is a man's look.
Yes, that is definitely. It's a fantastic man's look, except for the jacket, because that is a woman's jacket.
So if she
But
was trying to find that sweet spot of I look masculine with a hint of femininity, I've nailed it.
sure,
Okay. I'll take it. Very similar cut to that too. Um, this got rave reviews from my last guest,
did it. I don't hate it.
but that's also you can see the caption that says preacher.
Yeah.
So, and I did that because he came on to talk religion. I thought we kind of throw him a bone. Okay, so let me do this. Um, I've got some slides for us now. And what I'm going to do is new share. Let me turn this on this side of the screen. There it goes. And then I can share that. So now you see it says historical glow ups.
Yes.
All right, let's shift to that screen and a quick tweak to the picture in picture so that you look good. And let's see what we got. Now,
I'm a little frightened by
first
this.
order of business. We have
Right?
some rules.
Oh boy.
Rule one: women are socially permitted in men's roles in this fictional society. That's our first caveat. No one looks askance at women who are bounty hunters
Okay.
or cattle rustlers.
I'm trying not to twitch, but
I
okay.
know, I know. Now, however, we're also going to add the caveat that 1890s modesty and decorum are still enforced despite that.
Yes.
And finally, we're going to agree that the laws of physics still apply.
Okay, now I'm really scared.
Well, I know. Okay, here's why I put that in there. If we see something, if our one change, and we're limiting ourselves to one change per outfit,
Oh boy.
one one change, that's
One.
it. Then we should bear in mind that maybe that change is like you need to get something on because that's gonna chafe.
Yeah.
You know, there are things that girls have that boys don't,
Yep.
and gravity's a thing.
It is. Hence
I'll
the
take it.
corsets. Also. Saying, but it has to go under your other
I
clothes.
know. Well, there's a few that people have submitted that I think I kind of know where your critiques are going to be.
Oh boy.
So,
Oh,
but
and I have a good picture for you
oh, you do? Can you
of bloomers.
Facebook me the link and I'll see if I can pull it up towards the back end of this because I can put it over here on my third monitor
Because
and then we
basically,
can pull it up.
the easiest way to describe the difference is that drawers are an undergarment,
Okay.
bloomers are a fashion garment. Okay. I'm gonna try to send you this
A
link.
fashion garment? Now, wait, now I'm not ready to move on. I want to pull something up on my end. So you're supposed to see bloomers.
You are supposed to see bloomers. Yes.
Okay, well then hold on. We're not going here yet because now that we've hit this spot, I want to come back over here for a sec. Clothing.
I'm gonna send you that link. Let me know if that one works for you.
Yep, I just heard it ding in.
Okay.
Pants. And let's see, flip through the catalog. There we go. Bloomers.
Okay. So bloomers are
Oh,
gonna
wait, you
start to
can't see
take.
this.
Nope, I can't see this.
I'm not sharing it
That's
with you right
looking
now.
at.
There we go. Let me share that back with you.
Yeah. No,
Why not? They're bloomers.
no, they're not. Those are drawers,
Got
and that's
it.
not telling me enough.
Okay, then we're definitely. I'm gonna pull that link up when I get a minute here. We'll take a look at that when we're done with other stuff, because they call these bloomers.
No, those are drawers.
Those are
100%.
drawers.
Those are
Those
drawers.
are drawers, and those should be under your skirts where nobody can see them.
Should be, yes. And in reality, they should be white because you're going to be laundering them. Yes, you're going to be laundering them often, and you're essentially going to be bleaching them a lot. They're going to be hanging out in the sun to dry. Sun's going to naturally bleach them. So pretty much all of your undergarments are going to be white, cotton, linen, something along those lines. Yeah,
Got it. Okay,
yeah.
well we can.
When you
Okay.
get a chance to look at that link, um, bloomers are going to go down to mid calf or ankle length, depending on which decade of the 19th century you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Start to become a thing with Amelia Bloomer, who they're named after.
Okay.
She wanted more freedom in her clothing. So they're still going to be very wide leg. They're going to be very fluffy, I guess you could say. You know, they're going to have a lot of yardage to them. Um, and essentially, they're used for the most part. It's going to be used either as a sort of a political statement of I refuse to be pigeonholed as a woman, I want more freedom, or it's going to be like exercise where you might maybe wear them as work clothing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's primarily exercise, athletic wear kind of a thing. So when you're bicycling, like this lady,
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to remember how to get this up on the stream easily, and I think my best bet is going to be to do this really quick. And let me just pop it in here. If it'll let me do that quickly. Paste. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Let me get a copy of that picture, copy image, pop over here, paste it up. There we go.
yay!
Go back into presenter mode so that the stream is happy with that. There. So
Woohoo!
these are bloomers.
Yes, those are bloomers.
So these are like prototypical women's pants.
Essentially, yes. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. And that's
There's
definitely not what's over here.
yeah, there's even like swimwear from the time period, like our 1860s ones. You're wearing bloomers under a dress essentially, but your skirt on the dress is like mid calf length as opposed to full length where it's covering your feet or all the way down to the floor or whatever. Um, so yeah, I mean you get this in several different styles, but yeah, it was basically essentially what you see here.
Cool. That's I mean that's it says a lot too. It also kind of fills in some of the questions I have, which is the at what point do women get tired of being expected to ride while working when they get thrown into a position of having to work and either hike their skirts up or wear men's pants and deal with people, no offense, like you going, sweetie, you're not supposed to be doing that.
Right.
You're not supposed to be doing that. You just can't do that. Um,
And for us too, we have just a hard time wrapping our heads around riding side saddle.
yes.
For them, it was something that they grew up with. It was common. So it was like, it became second nature to them. If they grew up with it, they just didn't bat an eye at riding side saddle, essentially. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you're trying to ride a bike in a skirt, oh, good luck.
You can't ride bike side saddle.
No,
Doesn't technically work.
that does not work so well.
There was a scooter I saw at Greenfield Village here in Michigan because we have the Henry Ford Museum. Take it easy, Asia. Thanks for popping by. Um, and it was the wheel had like a peg in it, and the board of the scooter went in the peg. So when you stepped down, it pushed it down, and then you could ride it up, and then put and you could throw your weight on it to go down again. And so by bouncing, you could drive it forward, and you could do that in a full skirt, which was one of the selling points behind it. Except for the fact you now were encouraging young ladies to bounce in the 1920s, which was a little scandalous.
Yes. There
Okay,
are a lot
so
of that were considered very scandalous that we could not do.
reviewing our rules.
Mm-hmm.
We said we're gonna make one minor change to each of these to bring them a little more in line with historical accuracy, with the understanding that women have to be able to do men's jobs,
Yep.
but they're gonna still try to be feminine within the definition of femininity for the 1890s, and physics is still a factor.
Okay.
Okay, so here's we have this is Amy's character.
Um, I mean, other than the hat, it's not terrible.
Wow.
That the hat is very very masculine,
Hmm.
but the neckerchief you're going to see a lot, especially if you're outdoors working. It's just so practical. So you're going to see that a lot. And I like that that shirt has a collar that is great. And then I know what that jacket looks like
We know
already.
that jacket.
That jacket is great. Yes.
That's a good
And
jacket.
you see some women's blouses that are embroidered, but it's not super common because that's pretty darn fancy. Uh, so, I mean, is it going to be out there really common? Not so much. It's not a great working garment. That's more like a fashion thing. Um, you're more likely going to see very plain cotton or linen shirts that you might get some pattern to them, a floral or a stripe or something along those lines. But you're not really going to see anything with a lot of fancy embroidery on it for working wear.
Okay.
But the biggest thing with this that I would change is that hat. No,
Okay.
no,
Now,
no, 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 no.
Melinda has brought us this
Oh,
very rough and tumble. Now, what would be the one thing we might consider making a tweak to?
OMG, put clothes on her.
Okay. So you would
To
which
me, looking at this, and if you're 1890s, mid 19th century at all, she is naked. Okay? Like, naked. Like, where is her chemise underneath that corset? You are not going to wear a corset like that against your bare skin, let me tell you. It's just not going to be a thing because, ouch.
this is why that rule 3 was there. So are we so the perhaps maybe adding I mean, let's assume that she still wants to have that sense of like modern femininity, which is a lot of bare skin kind of mixed in here. Adding that top with the little poofy short sleeves would at least be a step in that direction.
That would be a step in the right direction.
Okay.
But then that's going to be more like, oh, hey, look, she forgot to put her dress on over her undergarment.
Okay. Now,
Oh,
here's why I put this picture next in the stream. Audrey is very popular on the Facebook page that will probably be leaving me lots of nasty comments. Um, so from that point of view, she has very much billed her character as the crazy swamp witch.
okay.
So I think there's a certain amount of maybe the running naked's part of the design.
Yes, and if that's the case, then yeah, this actually works. But still, I really don't think she would wear that corset up against her skin because, man, I have worn a corset and you will not wear that against your skin because, ouch.
So again, maybe that lace chemise underneath it would help
Yes,
cushion a bit, or put the skirt over the corset so that you can use the corset to hold the skirts up.
yes, and I would do that as well. Yes, because when you're thinking about it, um, those skirts have a lot of yardage to
We'll go
them
back
and
to the skirts then.
they
Yeah.
are very heavy. When you think about it, by the time we put on for Civil War, it's a minimum of 9 layers, which is where we get the phrase dress to the nines. That's where that comes from, the 9 layers that we wear.
Okay.
Uh, by the time we add at least 9 layers onto us, you're looking at a good 15 to 20 pounds worth of extra weight.
Wait.
Depending on what sort of fabrics that you're wearing. They're going to be all natural fabrics. So you're looking at cotton, linen, wool, silk, things like that. Silk is obviously going to be lighter for the most part. You can get heavier silks, but silk is going to be most likely your lightest. But by the time you think about it, you're going to have like 8 to 10 yards of fabric in the dress itself. And if you've heard the phrase the whole 9 yards, typically fabric came on 9 yard bolts.
Interesting.
Where that came from too. Um, So you've got 8 to 10 yards of fabric on average in a dress. And those are, if you've ever picked up a full bolt of fabric, that is not light.
Yeah. So that
So
that would be a way to help hold those skirts up, especially if she's in the swamps where
and
the
that's
bottoms
just,
are soaking up mud and stuff.
exactly. And that's just the dress itself that has those 8 to 10 yards of fabric. Then
Okay.
you're also looking at all of your undergarments, your drawers, your chemise, your petticoats, which, oh, by the way, you're probably going to have at least two petticoats. And then you're also going to have, you may have a corded petticoat or you may have a cage crinoline under your skirt. That's what gives it its shape.
Poof. Now
Yeah.
that's been a conversation too because the women in town have much more. They have the skirts with the bustles and the
Mhm.
little tiny hats, and
Yeah.
they have access to those. And a few of the players have said, "Hey, are we ever going to see some of this stuff come over to us?" And then everyone makes fun of me because I'm like, I just want to put my girl. I just want a nice little like satin choker at some point instead of having to use a neckerchief all the time. Give her a little something nice. And my friend's like, dude, you got issues. This
Yeah,
feels
for
like it's
workwear, you're not going to wear a cage crinoline for workwear
right.
because it's just not practical. But
Yep.
you are still going to have maybe a corded petticoat, which is going to give that petticoat a bit of stiffness to it to help hold your skirts away from your body. Because otherwise, you're going to be tripping over them constantly, which you're going to trip over them a lot anyway. Trust me, I know from experience. But it does help to pull them away from your body. And the nice thing about that is it also gives you better airflow under your skirts, which is a very awkward thing to have to talk about, but
But
very important
you
as
need
well.
it.
Yes, you really do. You really do. If you've ever been out to a reenactment and you see all the ladies, especially a Civil War, when you see all the ladies all of a sudden go, because we just got a nice breeze up our skirts and it's so good.
That was a bit in the Harry Potter novels too. One of the wizards refused to wear pants because he likes the sense of air blowing up under his robes, and everyone kind of like giggled at it. And it's like, well, if you're used to something.
Well,
So Faith gave us this picture of her character, who's very obviously native inspired.
yeah.
Um, I don't know if this is within your expertise, how much this look is a relatively authentic versus a Hollywood version of
I,
native wear.
my general impression is this is going to be a pretty Hollywood version of it.
Okay.
Um, I'm not a great expert on Native American wear, but from what I have seen of original items of Native American, yeah, this is really a pretty Hollywoodized version of it.
That's fair, and that's something.
I haven't seen anything with that deep V on it in anything Native American wear ever. Um,
Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. As like this is not our expertise.
yeah, and it seems a bit short as well. But yeah, it's not. It's not. I'm not a super expert on those. I've seen enough original garments to know that that's pretty Hollywoodized version of it. But it's probably not the worst thing ever.
Okay, Michael kicked us this one. I had to kind of zoom in a lot, so the resolution's not great. But she's got the skirts that we like. She's got the top, which we know is not great. And
Not for day wear.
it's pardon?
Not for day wear.
No.
You might be able to, it's hard to tell in this picture what exactly is going on with that top, but if it's got that lacing down the front, that's
Hmm.
going to be like a chemise. If it's just a plain old short sleeve top, that one could go either way. You might be able to get away with it for evening wear, but not daytime, certainly.
She probably should add a jacket then.
Yes, her arms should be covered. Now, like with yours, where you have the sleeves rolled up to the elbow, that's one thing. But when you've got short sleeves like that and it's pretty low cut on the front, that to me signifies evening wear, not
Okay.
day.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's a pretty fancy skirt for being workwear too.
Yeah, it feels like she's kind of shooting that sweet spot. Now this feels very much like a men's costume. With the tight pants and the high heat knee boots and the bright
Oh,
red vest. I put it into because I wanted to give Lexi a chance to show off her character. Everyone loves to show off their characters.
of course.
Um, but I also wanted to kind of ask about that hat.
No,
It's very dashing.
that feels very Hollywoodized to me. To be honest, I have not seen any women's hats that are that big like that, not that style of brim. Um, you are going to get a lot of feathers. as
Okay.
decoration on women's hats and bonnets. You see that a lot. Feathers are extremely popular in all sorts of colors. So yes, the feather is okay, but the rest of the hat shape,
And that's why they call it the cavalier hat. So I feel like this is one of those the artists thought they'd have some fun.
yeah, I feel like they really did.
And but again, I think I mean, I don't know if she's wearing a corset under there. Is she? This is like ignorant guy wanting to pander to the middle school audience for a second. Is she going to be able to pull off what she needs to pull off to be comfortable long term with like a tight vest and a shirt?
No,
Okay. So she better have something on under there. Okay.
yes. They do have, um, there is such a thing as a work corset,
Oh,
which is typically has less boning to it than a corset that you're going to wear under your regular dresses and things.
okay.
It can be a little bit more flexible, but it's still going to be supportive. Um, so there is such a thing as a work corset, and she would certainly have one of those because otherwise you're just not going to have the support that you need. And
Okay.
then the same thing with that is no pants, and especially not that tight. Even men's pants of the period are not that tight, not remotely that tight.
Yeah. But
They
we're
wore them
start,
much looser because there's this thing called modesty.
well, we're starting to flirt into that bit where modern fashion has really brought the tight pant into favor because we have materials that are very easy to be comfortable for everyone to wear very tight pants. Whereas traditionally, if you were only a handful of people could physically feel comfortable just moving in
Yeah,
pants that were that tight.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, cotton, natural cotton doesn't have a whole lot of stretch or give to it. So you have to have what they call wearing ease to it to begin with. But then there's also a different modesty sensibility, mid 19th century as compared to today. You're not going to see tight pants like on this one, too. You're not going to see pants like that, even on a man. You're just not because it wasn't considered modest.
yeah, and I thought this kind of followed Lexi's character really well
Yeah.
because Corinne has like a ton of pictures. She's like very prolific with doing photos of her characters in really neat poses, really good filters, really presenting the art of the game. Um, and so we kind of bump into that same. There's a lot of very masculine look here, and I don't know what we would tweak to make it more period feminine.
Put her in a skirt. That's the biggest thing. I love that she's a fiddle player. You haven't shown me anybody else that's a fiddle player. Um,
They're not easy pictures to get.
yeah.
You literally have to like take over for a musician in your Moonshine Shack band to get the picture of yourself playing it.
Nice.
Um,
Um,
but I did want to make sure she made it in before we ran out of time too, because I think she adds so much to the community with the art. Um,
I love it. But yeah, the biggest thing for her is put her in a skirt. The rest of it is honestly not bad.
I think Cheryl's looking for kind of just that. I want to look. I just want menswear.
Yep. And if that's the case, she nailed it. I mean, really, that's pretty good for menswear. Um, Now, if she wants to go, and she probably should, a little bit more modest, button that top.
Pull that top up a bit.
Yeah, you might be able to get away with leaving the top button or two undone. But even in Old West, even if you're a woman of looser morals, there's still going to be that safety issue. And if you're leaving everything unbuttoned like that, let's keep in mind that to the men of the time period is going to be like an open invitation.
Well, and that there's also I think something too about practicality because the medicines we have to treat sunburn are much more advanced now than they were 100 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I mean I think oh who cares about modesty so much? It's a modern game, and then there's also that practical level of the more you expose to the sun, the more you have to deal with the fallout from.
Yes.
And so I'm even thinking that something for someone working the range, the practicality of having something covering the upper
Mm-hmm.
chest is just, you just don't want sunburn there.
It's why you see the long sleeves as well. It's partly modesty and partly, like you're saying, you don't want that sunburn. your best way to treat it is going to be with aloe, which they did know about and they did use,
Oh,
and
good.
it's extremely effective.
Hmm.
But you don't want to be tan. You don't want to be sunburned, because the paler the better, essentially. Because the paler you were, um, the more that signified that you had money and you didn't have to work for a living. So for women, especially, this made you much more made you a much more eligible bachelorette if you could give off that sense that your family had money. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so you wanted to be nice and pale. Porcelain doll was a good look. So I would have fit in real well back then.
And
Because I am pale as a
poor,
ghost.
everyone probably assumes poor Siobhan comes from a crap ton of money with her,
Right?
fair
Yeah.
skin.
And
Um,
that's another thing too with the hats. You're always going to be looking for something super practical that's going to shade your face.
well, I feel like Isabella here is definitely well covered from the elements.
Yes, yes,
She's
she
not
is.
gained sunburned
But OMG, why is she showing off her underwear?
because she's showing off that her pants and her skirts go are resting on the corset. So um, you're thinking still that that corset should just be under the shirt.
It should
Would be the
be.
one tweak you would make
Yeah,
um, as she's working. There's not a lot to go with beyond that, from what I'm
yeah.
seeing.
That's really, it's a supportive garment. It goes under the clothing. It's not a fashion item.
I
Um,
think we have time.
Other than that, if she's, the hat is very practical. She's hiding from the sun, which is great. And yeah, I mean, other than that, the shirt is great.
Joy gave us another native look, which again we've kind of said was a little outside our venue.
A little bit, but again, I can tell you right now, it's too low cut in the front. I have never seen native wear that was that low cut ever.
Zach threw a picture in. He just got started, so I thought I'd include him here. Um, there's a lot that Zach has to go by still. So we're going to let him get caught up. And then Nick kind of fell into the same category where they
Okay.
just were getting started.
The biggest thing on Zach's I can tell you is, pretty much for all of these, for women's fashions, for the hairstyle,
Hmm.
just touch on this very quickly because we could go a whole lot of places with this. But essentially, it's going to be parted down the center still. It's not going to be parted off to the side. So Zach's character, it's parted off to the side. Her hair is down. That's not going to be a thing. It's going to be pulled back. Especially for working, having your hair down like that, not remotely practical. Anybody with long hair can tell you that is not something, you're not going to leave your hair down like that. It's going to be tied back in some way. Whether you've got it braided or pulled back in a bun, you've got to have it back somehow, not down and loose like that. Not practical.
Good to know. Okay, we
And
are at 8 o'clock. What's that?
no pants.
No pants.
No pants.
No pants. Duly noted. We are done with pants.
And put a hat on because seriously, sunburn, ouch. And those are both redheads. And seriously, they will burn in about 5 seconds. Trust me, I know.
Okay, well we're at 8 o'clock,
You.
and we said we were going to let you get to bed early because you have work in the morning.
Yes,
This
I
has
am
been.
an early to bed person.
There's
So,
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I am not because the my beloved who's behind this Bob Ross original. Isn't that like that's like I'm digging this for my virtual backgrounds going forward. Um, she's working till 11, so we're gonna be up late in this house.
oh boy. All
But
right.
I do absolutely want to say thank you for coming on and talking about some of this stuff we've got, helping me kind of go through a bit more of what I kind of guessed but wasn't sure about, and the whole bloomer drawers thing. That was neat.
Drawers are an undergarment. Bloomers are fashionable. Yes,
Although what they call bloomers are actually drawers
or actually
and should
drawers.
be under things.
You hear that a lot, though. Most we affectionately refer to, and you may have done this in your reenacting as well. We affectionately refer to spectators as taters, so they don't know we're talking about them. But the taters often will call our undergarments bloomers, and we have to correct them quite often. It's a really common misnomer on that one. I don't know how that got started, but yes, they are drawers, not bloomers. Bloomers are a fashion item, and drawers are purely a undergarment that nobody else is meant to see.
Got it.
Yeah,
So thanks for coming over tonight and hanging out.
thanks.
I hope you had fun.
I did. I tried not to twitch too much.
And we are going to get you into that game. One night I'm going to sit down with you and coach you through getting
Yeah.
started because I think it's just a matter of the interface that's giving you some headaches. But we'll get you in there, ride around with us,
Yay.
which will be great because if you ever come back to watch a live stream with us, we are all over the map. I mean, we're just a bunch of people that have fun playing and get into all kinds of wacky antics while we talk about our days and current
Nice.
events and just the absurdities of life, even in art.
Yeah. You're
All
probably
right.
gonna get like 6,000 complaints at least about all the critiques that I made on them.
I don't think it'll be that bad, but we'll see what happens. All right. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you to everyone in chat. Thank you to everyone who lurked. And I think that's it. So I guess until next time, everybody stay safe.